Good afternoon and welcome to Woman of Color, Tell Your Story. And today I want to look at the woman of color who is reclaiming her power. Reclaim your power as a woman of color. That's something that some people say is kind of ludicrous in the world we live in, but it's true. The woman of color is the power on the planet. Because if you look around the world, there are millions and billions of women of color. And here in the United States of America, if you take all of the women of color, the black women, the Asian American women, the Latina American women, the Native American women, the Middle Eastern women, the Pacific women, you have an overwhelming majority of women who are creative, imaginative, intelligent, enterprising. The woman of color is the woman of the 21st century with a lot to share. Now, sometimes we look in this world and it's overwhelming because there's so much currently that wants to push us back, make us feel like we are less than, that we're not as important, that we're too dark or too light-skinned, or your hair isn't right, or you're just too old and you're just out of touch. But none of that matters. Because when you know who you are, you can move forward with purpose towards fulfillment. And who are we as a woman of color? You are the descendant of goddesses and queens for ages and eons. And look at it. If you are a Christian, the mother of God, being the mother of Jesus, was a woman in what is now called Palestine, in the Middle East. And the people there are brown-skinned people, the native indigenous people. The woman who would have been called Mary, who gave birth to Jesus, was a brown-skinned woman. Not white, blonde-haired, and blue eyes. And if you're a Christian, Jesus is the Son of God. So, the woman of color is the mother of God. And science has proven that all human beings on this earth are descendants from the first black woman in Africa who evolved into giving birth to Homo sapiens. In Buddhism, in Tibetan Buddhism, which I practice, there was a woman named Yeshe Sogyo who was the companion and student of Padmasambhava, who brought Buddhism to Tibet. She wrote his biography, which informed the world of what he had to offer. But the story about Yeshe Sogyo that's most inspiring for us today is that she was so committed to her purpose, the purpose of gaining enlightenment, to be of benefit to all sentient beings, that she was committed to this purpose, even at the sacrifice of leaving a royal marriage, and she endured abuse. But after she was raped by several men, she didn't run and hide. She used what she had learned from Padmasambhava, and she taught them the truths of achieving enlightenment and overcoming our downfalls. She actually forgave them and taught them how to purify their negativity, how to gain enlightenment. That is the strength of the woman of color who wants to transcend the negative thoughts and words and lies that are put out. The woman of color is no longer a victim, known or unknown. The woman of color is moving forward, claiming her power, reclaiming her power as a force of love, energy, enthusiasm, inspiration, and motivation. These are the qualities that we instill in ourselves to be of benefit to our families, other women of color, to our countries, to our communities, and most of all, to ourselves. Now, I know, and I've seen and read the articles that said the year 2018 was not a good year for the working woman of color. Women were not getting promoted. You're not getting paid your value. And sometimes they're not getting jobs. We're living in times that are very difficult as society is changed by technology and people think that democracy and diversity aren't important, but they are the reality of our lives. And every person is responsible for their own selves, for their own ability to stand up and say, I represent me and those like me. And we do have rights and strength. And no one man or woman can control the whole world. So it's important for you, woman of color, to stand in what you know is true and right and good. Whatever it is you're doing. Over the weeks, every week I will be here providing information and ideas and inspiration about the woman of color. And I've shared 2 stories today. Well, the story all Christians know, although most don't say that the Mother of God was a woman of color. And the story of Yeshes Sogyo. And I have another story, too, of a young woman I know who's 28. She's married. She's a college graduate. She has a son. But she and her husband cannot live together because he was unemployed for a short time. She's working under the level of her education and her aspirations. And they're both living in their parents' homes because to live in a good community costs over $1,000. And they're making $15. And she said that among her friends her age, that's their experience. $15 an hour after going to college, getting a degree, working hard. So how do we correct this? How do we learn and work on coming together, creating collaborations where we can be of benefit to each other, where we can share our information. Those who have been successful in business, are you giving something available to those who can't afford your high-price coaching? Are you offering some free bits of information? Are you helping struggling businesses? Those are just a few ideas. As we move forward as the woman of color, we need to claim this, because it doesn't matter if you're light-skinned or dark-skinned, if you're a Latina with curly hair or straight hair, if you're a Muslim in a head wrap, or if you're an Asian American financial advisor or doctor. The woman of color remains put in a box in any Western society. And only the woman of color can change that position. I was listening to an audiobook written by a person who I'm acquainted with, and the book is about purpose. And it's a good book, and it's a good program. But he opened his book in the first chapter quoting about purpose. And in all of the quotes were from men, and most of them were white men. The woman of color has been so ignored by society that even when you Google woman of color, you don't always find what you're looking for. You'll find articles about color. You'll find articles about fashion. But there are women of color producing important works, but it's not being attributed to a woman of color. So it doesn't come up in your Google search. So part of what my effort is to increase the use of women of color, so that when our daughters and nieces who are brown and beige and tangerine and golden and mixed are looking for information from people like them, they can Google woman of color and find a wealth of information. You can find novels, you can find scientific treatises, you can find information on business, you can find spiritual information. This is the work we have to do. We have to make ourselves known for who we are and what we do. And that's the purpose of Woman of Color, Tell Your Story. And if you're watching this and you're a woman of color and you have a story you want to share, contact me at the email address below, skywalker@vibrantvelvetvoice.net, or you can direct message me on Facebook. We want to share your stories with the world, get the information out so people will know what the woman of color is doing, what's on your mind, and how you want to change the world and make the world a better place for everyone. So, get in touch, share your story, reach out. That's the message for today. Woman of color, reclaim your power and share your story with the world. And until next week, wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful week.